Good afternoon. I am not inclined to send you guys a lot of updates, but there's been some updates, a lot of updates actually in the past 24 hours and in the past week, and I wanted to share those with you, but also share with you why it makes a difference to have a person, a licensed preparer, prepare your return as opposed to using software or somebody who cannot represent you before the IRS. Um, as you know, there was, and you may not know, I mean, you know that there was this third stimulus payment legislation recently, but you may not know that that legislation included changes to the tax code that affected 2020. So, halfway through the tax season, legislators changed the rules. And if you already filed your return, it could affect you. Not only that, if you were in the process of filing your return, and some of you guys know that I'm holding your returns while we're waiting to see what states do in response to what the federal government has done. What you may not know is that there were changes made in the past month to the tax code for 2019. And how does that affect you? And do you need to file an amendment? And are you owed money? Because IRS isn't going to just send that to you. And another really good reason why you want to have someone who is familiar with the tax code and familiar with you is because this legislation that happens can save you a lot of money. For instance, you may know that if you buy your health insurance on the marketplace, that you prepay a portion of your tax monthly based on your credit that you get. It's the advanced premium tax credit, and that's reconciled at the end of the year. Well, that has been I have to be careful with my words because there's legal terms and I don't want to misrepresent. So in 2018, 2017, 2016, you had to repay if you were short. Legislation was entered contesting how legal this is, how constitutional it is. Many professionals were thinking that it wasn't really going to hold water. But in the recent third stimulus legislation, a little bit of language was entered allowing taxpayers in 2020 to not have to repay. So if they overestimated their income or underestimated their income and they were wrong, they don't have to repay that premium tax credit for 2020. That tells me that there's a strong likelihood that the pending legislation that would affect 18, 17, and 16 will benefit taxpayers who have had to repay those. But there's a statute of limitations. As with all things legal, there's a time that you can file. So, unfortunately, if you filed your return with H&R Block and you had to repay the premium tax credit, there's nobody at that office that's going to reach out to you and say, hey, I think we have a chance to get you some money back. This is what we need to do. But when you file with a CPA or even an EA, likely, they know and they will and they can reach out to you and say, this is what we need to do to you. Not to you, for you. Sorry, my kid's over there taking out the garbage. This is what we need to do for you to protect you so that you can claim this. And for a number of my clients, I will be filing protective claims for the 2018 tax period so that if the legislation does pass, because the legislation isn't going to be voted on until after the statute of limitations expires. So you'd be out of luck if you didn't have somebody thinking in advance for you, anticipating what your needs might be. And that is one really, really good reason to have a professional on your side. You have an advocate on your side. As my daughter has been saying, this tax season has been like playing a board game where the rules are constantly changing. And it's true, the rules are constantly changing. So if you're not familiar with that and how it affects you, you really would be out in the cold. So that being said, you may be aware that the deadline has been moved from April 15th to May 17th now, but that is a filing deadline, not a paying deadline. The payment deadlines for now are still April June, September, and January for estimated taxes. And what a lot of people don't realize is that your taxes were due by December 31st of last year for 2020. So if you have a balance due right now, it's going to just tick up penalties. You're just accruing penalties for every day. So waiting to file until May 17th or waiting to pay until May 17th is not going to minimize your penalties. You're still going to have penalties. So feel free to go ahead and schedule an appointment, get on the calendar. And what are my other notes I had here? Deadline moved to file but not to pay. Other deadlines have not been moved. It's just that filing deadline. States have not necessarily snapped to order with that, so we might just have a lot of situations where we have to extend states even though we don't have to extend federal. It's really kind of a little bit of a mess. And we haven't gotten word on whether that's going to affect corporations or not. It may just affect individuals. And let's see, what else did I want to tell you about? And of course, the unemployment income not subject to tax for households under $150,000 had another situation where a taxpayer was in the phase out for that, and they were going to be taxed on the 10-2 anyway. But if we filed married filing separately, there might be a chance that we could minimize that and get him under the threshold. So we are doing that in a few cases. So things like that you might not know, that you're not going to really get from tax software, is not going to tell you that. And a clerk in an office that's just basically clicking through the questions that you would click through online is not going to know that. You need somebody that can think, analyze, anticipate, and remember where things were and what things are happening, instead of just entering numbers into a box. So I hope that is useful and helpful information. Feel free to reach out to Chris or Chesney or myself anytime and schedule an appointment, or I've stopped giving out my cell phone number, so I'm going to not say that. But I hope you guys are doing well, and take care.